So we'll now ask Andreas Michalsky to switch on his camera and microphone while I introduce him. Good afternoon. He is a senior project manager at Huhtamaki, and he's expert on customer and development experience. His task in the project is to supervise the product's development. So please, Andrea, the floor is yours.
Okay, now it's okay.
We can hear you now.
Thanks
Perfect.
for giving me the chance to present here from the view of a packaging producer. We are the guys who produce also waste, but Huhtamaki wants to become the first choice in sustainable packaging solutions, and for this we also have a closer look to bio-based packaging. So these are the pictures who gave many emotions to people and to overthrow all old priorities, and the main activity now is to stop all this. This is a picture of our location in the Allgäu region in the south part of Germany. If you look very close, you will not see many waste pieces lying on the floor, but there are different regions in the world where this is a real critical problem. So we had a huge shift in paradigm from functionality. Can you see my presentation? Okay. From functionality of packaging, marketing, and costs of packaging to end of life dominating all other priorities for development. And this has become a dogma, something which is not questioned because of very emotional decisions taken also by the European legislation, pushing for circular economy. Many laws brought into life against waste and packaging. And we are facing, on the other hand, consumers preferring paper and plastic packaging. This is a certain contradiction we have to deal with. But to follow this potential path for paper packaging and plastic packaging, I want to show you our strategy. All behind the background of very fast legal processes and legal people not listening to institutions like packaging, as single-use plastic ban was pushed through legislation in very high speed. But my appeal to you all is not to forget the functions of the packaging that we have to fulfill to bring the products that we pack to the market, because this is our target. And if you ban packaging, you at the same time you ban many products because they cannot exist anymore. This is a short view on all the functions that a packaging has to fulfill, from the demands of itself, like conformity, weight, volume, demands the product sets towards the packaging process, which is very essential for the qualities that can be achieved. A minimum of food waste was a strong target in the past, but now also this is dominated by recyclability, and also distribution and convenience in consumption, very strong arguments for packaging. Here you see a packaging shown from the outside to the inside. So the OPP20 on top is the outside of the packaging, and on the inside you have another OPP, potentially with some barrier, which lies towards the inside, the product side. On the outside you can have microbes, and you have to fulfill different functions for barriers, so against gas, aroma, humidity, light, but also other components from the surrounding, like mineral oils. And each packaging normally is sealed hermetically, means that it needs to have a resistance against heat, which comes from the sealing, or at least some mechanical force for the sealing. And these are essential functions of each packaging that also will have to be fulfilled by bio-based materials. Here you see demands for different products. I apologize that some descriptions are in German, but I will give explanations, and you see that different products will need different barriers. On the left side you see the oxygen permeation, and on the bottom side, the x-axis, you see the humidity barrier. And you see that it's possible also with some lower demand for barrier to have some packaging on the market, but there are clearly some products which require a very high barrier, and it will be difficult to achieve this with bio-based materials. Here you see different polymers that are used for packaging. So the fossil polymers like polyethylene, different grades, polypropylene, polyamide, polyester, polyethylene naphthalate. Then some barrier materials like PVOH, EVOH, polystyrene, and some bio-based materials like TPS, PLA, PHA, PEF. And you see again the oxygen permeation and the water permeation, and you see which areas in this matrix can be fulfilled with which barrier materials. This scheme is missing a reference in thickness. So it refers to typical thickness of materials that is used for flexible packaging. You will find all these slides in your documentation, so you can check, you can come back to me with questions if you want. But it would take too much time, I guess, now to go into each single material. And here you see the same matrix. On the bottom now you have the oxygen, on the y-axis you have the humidity barrier, and you can see bio-based or biodegradable materials, how they fit and how they can fulfill very high barrier demands or medium or low barrier demands. And you will see that most of the materials are in the range of only low barrier. Sorry. And I have brought into this matrix also some materials we are dealing with in the ECOFUNCO project, like cutin. We've done some testing, and other biocoatings like chitin, which bring more a good oxygen barrier and less humidity barrier. And I also showed you some mineralic coatings, because they are, for me, somehow in competition with the bio-based coatings. Next. The demands of the packaging. Single-use plastic ban, I mentioned already before, is a new law that comes into life this month or end of this month. And it means a ban of a lot of on-the-go packaging, which in modern life people use when they are commuting, when they are traveling, when they have fun outside in the cities. And we all know that the litter created by this way of living is a problem. And the target of this law is to reduce this littering and the risk of uncontrolled disposal and the creation of microplastic, which can be a next step after a few years of degradation of these materials. So potential litter should be turned into waste which is uncritical for the environment. And the demand is that the packaging can be made of only fiber. Fossil plastic layers, functional layers are banned the same way as bio-based polymers. So it's the same for fossil and bio-based. So the authorities say, the European said both materials are not good for our environment. And we see a good potential to go from thicker functional layers to very thin functional layers. And this is, in my eyes, a good chance for materials we are dealing with in this ECOFUNCO projects. So the main function, of course, is repellency of humidity and fat. And the main target for the material for such a paper is whether it's repulpable. Some very thin layers like collars and adhesives are not in discussion. They seem to be accepted, but the whole situation is a little bit unclear yet, and we will have to find out what will be accepted, which will be okay for the single-use plastic ban materials, and which materials will be banned. For me, the ban of such packaging is a ban of this way of life and of many products which are sold on the go. I personally, I'm not such a big fan of such on the go products, but I know many young people, many commuting people, for them it's a part of daily life before they go into the metro to buy a cup of coffee and to have it inside the metro. So banning the packaging means also banning this way of life to a certain extent. And we see a certain contradiction because on the other side, there are very high demands on hygiene. So also reusable packaging is not so easy. If you look at hygiene, and especially in Corona times, it was not less packaging. I guess it was even a little bit more packaging because clearly everybody wanted to have a fresh cup and not a reused cup, which was cleaned in a way he could not reflect on. This single-use plastic ban now goes on this food service and on-the-go packaging, but it might have an impact also on other single-use packaging like wrapping of bars which are consumed on the go, of ice cream, snacks. So all single-use plastic ban might be involved.
Excuse me, Andreas. I'm sorry, you have 5 minutes left.
Yes, I'm close to the end.
Thank you.
Here you see solutions that we are promoting now. So we are trying now in Huhtamaki to functionalize paper. And the paper you see on the left side at the moment seems to be okay to be used for such single-use plastic ban products. But normally such a paper has on the outside a mineralic coating of clay and binding, and on the inside a rather thick layer to provide a certain barrier and sealability. And this barrier can be fossil and bio-based polymers. Our target now is to substitute these rather thick coatings by a very thin coating for the smoothing of the surface and for printability and protection and barrier. And on the inside, or again with rather thin coatings, either bio-based or ceramic, to provide again barrier. And of course, we need again a sealability to shade the packaging. In this papers that we can buy from paper producers, normally it's a full surface coating because these producers do not know where will be the sealing areas of our packaging. But as soon as we know what will be the shape of the packaging, we can apply all this in a pattern. And this we also try to bring into the ECOFUNCO project. So last slide. Even if we manage to make paper packaging okay for such products, we have to manage the end of life for mono paper packaging, because at the moment packaging which was in contact with food and which has some reminders of food on the inside is not wanted to be in the normal paper waste. So we need to install a separate collection, separate from newspaper, from the high value plastic streams, and we have to find applications for this kind of fiber. And maybe this paper has to be washed. We need different repulping facilities, technologies, maybe even some disinfection. If we manage to use biomaterials for such applications, also for those materials, no end of life is existing, at least in Germany. It's a little bit different in Italy, where in the supermarkets, the main part or even all sachets are bio-based films. And so it's easy and clearly understandable for consumers that these sachets can go into the bio-waste. In Germany, it's different because we nearly have no bio-based sachets, and consumers mix it up, and then you have the risks that you have fossil-based polymers sachets in the bio-waste. And therefore, at the moment, all polymer pouches in bio-waste are forbidden. If we want to go for a recycling, we need a clear separation of all biodegradable materials from fossils. And of course, another aspect is before we decide to go into such biomaterials, to help consumers of us, the big brand owners, the producers of food, to decide for a biomaterial, we need a positive LCA balance. Solution of Huhtamaki is a clear differentiation, at least in Germany, biomaterials from fossil polymers by applying such biopolymers on a paper, allowing the paper to be recycled in a paper stream. And this is, in my eyes, a good chance for materials dealt with in this project, ECOFUNCO. Thank you.
Thanks, Andreas, for your presentation and for this interesting insight on the enormous challenge faced by the packaging industry in relation with sustainability aspects.